educational moment. Disclaimer, if you are dealing with the issue that I'm about to discuss, please consult a professional. Don't solely rely on my opinion and my experience. I am not licensed to deal with remediate or test mold or anything like that. So mold's what we're talking about. If you are in a situation where you have mold in your home, here's a few things that are kind of important. For one, is the space where you've discovered the mold part of your livable space or unlivable space? If it's part of your livable space, for one, it could just be mildew. So if your gutters overflow into the wall and get the sheetrock wet, you're initially going to experience some mildew while the sheetrock is drying out. You just can clean that off with some bleach or whatever your preferred cleaning product is. Once the sheetrock is completely dry, then you can go back and reassess the damage. And, if you're still getting mildew, mold, or something like that, or the sheetrock's damage or the wood's damage, then you might want to consider some sort of remediation, or you might just need to cut out the sheetrock and replace it. You may not have to do any specific, cleanup. It might just be repairs to the damage. If it's a situation where it's an uninhabitable space, like your crawl space, the basement, this can be for a building, could be for your personal home, doesn't really matter what the situation is. But if it's an uninhabitable space and it's really not intended for somebody to be down there, you might want to do some remediation. It depends. If you do mold testing down there, it's going to test positive for mold. And even if you do some full-blown intensive remediation, it's likely, because we're in Georgia and it's so humid, and if there's dirt and whatever type of earth matter down there, it's likely you're still going to test positive for mold. You're never going to totally get rid of it. And that's where you have to understand and really talk to somebody who's qualified to sort of explain this. But at least in my experience, there were situations where there might be a little mold on some wood framing or something that was, like part of the support, or, some storage space in a basement, but the basement is filled with dirt. And you're not going to remediate that. That's just not going to happen. So, and the advice that was given in that situation was clean up. There was some raw sewage. So it was like, clean up the raw sewage as best as you can. Put down a vapor barrier. The couple of areas where there was mold sort of noted, it was, get a handyman. You can do some cleanup. Literally like spray bleach kind of a situation. It did not warrant a professional company to come in and do like very specific remediation. And I've had other situations where, an inspector went to a crawl space of a building and they found black mold. And what I found in that situation, for that specific situation, is there was the ground level line was higher than the floor. And so you could remediate the black mold, but it would come back. Like, there was no way to really stop it from coming back because of the situation of the building. And so the recommendation there was make sure the drainage is how it's supposed to be, and then test the air quality inside the livable space. If the air quality inside the livable space was deemed acceptable by the people that understand mold, so it's not a cause for concern type of deal, then there really wasn't any type of need to remediate that black mold, because it was something that wasn't impacting the home. And so the things that I would say is, just because you discover mold in your home, in a building, shows up on an inspection. But just because that pops up, don't immediately freak out. Don't think that you need to get your house, completely remediated and the crawl space remediated and new sheetrock and new ductwork and all that stuff. Don't freak out. Just take the report, kind of break things out. Is it a little bit of mold? Is it like the whole basement's covered? Is it something that can be replaced with like some sheetrock or a vapor barrier or whatever? But more importantly, do the air quality test in the livable space, because that's where it's going to impact you the most. You are probably not going to go into that crawl space ever. And if it's just a little bit related to the fact that we have, we live in a very humid state, then kind of just accept the fact that there might be an issue down there, but do your air quality tests. And if you are somebody who maybe has some allergy sensitivity, there might be some things you can do to enhance the air quality. Even if the testing turns out okay, if you're concerned, get whatever filters or things are recommended that might improve the air quality. But you don't need to go spend $100,000 just because some thirsty vendor thinks, that they're going to get you on the hook because they're playing into your anxiety. And anybody who's doing that, I will say, just in my experience of dealing with vendors, obviously any of the vendors that I work with could have said, yes, you need to fully remediate this basement because of this little bit of mold or this mold damage. And that would have cost the association probably $500,000. No exaggeration there. But instead, because they're reputable, they explained the things to consider. And then I was able to take that factual information to the board, and, maybe they spent a couple $1,000s to repair some old damage, clean the mold, clean up the sewage in the one case, add vapor barriers, and move on and call it a day. So that's my PSA for today. Don't get freaked out about mold. Make sure you're working with quality people. Make sure you understand, the difference of, your basement crawl space versus your living room. And if you need recommendations or you have questions or just want to talk something through, let me know. Have a good day.